I'm Melba Pearson, also known as the Resident Legal Diva, and it's time for another Daily Diddy, bringing you Diddy trial updates all the way through every day until we get a verdict. So today is day 2 of Cassie's testimony. Now, this is day 3 of the trial, but this is the second day that Cassie Ventura has been on the stand. She got into more details today about the freak-offs and really how, as my Cuban friends would say, asco, completely disgusting this whole situation was. She also talked a little bit more about the hotel attack. So remember, we all saw that video of her being beaten up by Diddy at the Intercontinental Hotel. She went in to talk about how he said that you're not going to leave me. That was part of the whole incident because she tried to leave. They were having a freak off. She tried to run away and he wouldn't let her and beat her in response. And then when she tried to leave, not only did he beat her, he then showed up at her house afterwards, banging on the door, screaming and making a whole scene. Again, that's part of that broader domestic violence, pattern of violence and control. And people are like, well, why didn't she leave? He tried, and every time she did, he got violent and it all went sideways. She talked about how after that particular incident, the hotel incident, she still had to go to a movie premiere, smile. She had bruises all over her body, had to change her outfit, put on a ton of makeup to cover up having a black eye and a busted up lip. She also talked about her drug use. She used ketamine to disassociate from all that was happening. She also became addicted to opiates. And through all of this, she also ID'd or identified a number of the sex workers who were involved in the freak-offs. And she basically identified dozens of people. Really sad. Another interesting thing to note is that she talked about how Diddy would blackmail her into continuing to participate in the freak-offs. So he was videotaping the freak-offs and then would later on show her the videos and say, listen, if you don't comply, if you don't do what I want you to do, I'm going to release these videos, meaning her family was going to see it. It was definitely going to damage her music career. It would be incredibly embarrassing. So that was another reason why she stayed in the mix. She talked about one particular incident where they were on a plane. He started to play one of the freak-off videos on his laptop. She tried to change her seat and get away. He then changed his seat to get next to her, continued to force her to watch the video, again as a reminder that he had power and control over her. She also talked about the multiple beatings that she sustained throughout the course of the relationship. And again, that would be the reason why she participated in the freak-offs, because that fear was ever present. Also, Cassie talked about the physical cost and toll that being involved in these freak-offs basically cost her. So she was getting consistent UTIs, urinary tract infections. She was getting sores in her mouth from all the repeated sex acts that she was forced to do. He would also just be exhausted and dehydrated. She said that after a freak off, she said that I felt so tired, achy, dehydrated, not really eating too much. Emotionally, I felt empty and gross, like I did a job. He would also sometimes injure her during the freak offs because he would hit her or hold her down or direct other people to hold her down. So she would get thrown around and brutalized in the course of these freak offs as well. And lastly, she also identified herself in the freak off videos because some of those videos were shown to the jury as part of the trial. Cassie also talked about the incident back in 2011 with Kid Cudi, where she was dating him. When she had tried to leave Diddy, she was dating him. She eventually ended up breaking up with Kid Cudi because Diddy had threatened to blow up his car if she continued to see him. So out of his safety, she decided to back off of the relationship. She also talked about a very horrible time that she was beaten, ended up have to go to a plastic surgeon because the gash was so severe and required her not only to have stitches, but she had to have surgery to repair that. So completely just awful. She talks about how he would hide her from his family so that his son and other kids wouldn't see her with the bruises and everything else. So again, he was trying to cover up the fact that he was beating her left, right, and center. And again, why didn't she leave? Because he would get violent. So there's that. So one of the key parts of today's testimony was an incident that involved Alex Fine, her now husband. In the beginning of this trial, the defense did not want Alex Fine to sit in the courtroom during her testimony because the defense said they may want to call him as a witness later. The judge compromised and said, no, he can stay, but he has to leave when the testimony turns to the 2018 rape allegations. So she did testify about that. She talked about how in 2018, she and Diddy were having a closure conversation. She had broken up with him. She was already dating Alex Fine. She thought everything was cool. They had dinner, it seemed to be fine. He then took her back home, but once she got back to her house, he forced his way in and then raped her. So at that point, obviously she was super upset. She did have one more consensual encounter with him, probably out of fear, but at that point, the relationship was fully over and she got with Alex Fine. She ended her testimony by saying the following: I can't carry this anymore. The shame, the guilt. What's right is right and what's wrong. People aren't disposable. So her testimony definitely laid the foundation for the coercion aspect, because again, if you are constantly in fear for your safety because you're being beaten, obviously you're going to comply. She talked about all the different locations they went to, which again goes back to the fact they had to travel in between states for this to happen. So that also rises to the level of trafficking to make it a federal case. She also finally, we know the number now that the suit settled for. So when she had filed a lawsuit earlier, which got this whole thing started, basically Diddy settled like the next day. The settlement was for $20 million. So tomorrow we're going to start again with cross-examination. We'll see if her credibility is able to hold up, and I'll be back with more details. Take care.